Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-hosts, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And our call-in number is 646-200-4169, and we would love to hear from you. And today is day 80 of Memorial Day celebration. Welcome, Michael.
An honor and a delight to be back with everybody, and day 80 of Memorial Day. So it's been 80 days since, probably, well, I don't know whether a majority, but a great number of people celebrated with a case of beer and a barbecue and a day off work. Celebrated the lives that have been lost and the cost in those lives of so much insanity on the planet, that insanity, that main insanity being called war. And so our celebration of Memorial Day is to an invitation. And the invitation is to honor those who have lost their lives, who've been forced to murder, who've been murdered, who've been maimed, injured, brought those injuries home to their families, pass them on the traumas that are absolutely, totally, and completely unnecessary on planet Earth. So our invitation is that you take responsibility, and we'll take responsibility for today. Just one small hostility or fear, rather than blaming somebody else for it, rather to take responsibility for that hostility or fear and be willing to forgive, being willing to remove that from the planet. And the word forgive, if you're not familiar with our conversation, has nothing to do with I'm going to let somebody else off the hook for what's happening inside of me, but rather the word forgive means a tool with which you change a reality in mind. It's a tool with which you reach into your own being and you remove what never belonged. And so that's our invitation to you today, to be willing to use that tool. And if you haven't accessed that tool before, if you haven't been part of our conversation, if you go to the website, www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. And if you click on that link, there are 3 links directly underneath that. There are many links, but the first 3 are an explanation of the forgiveness process, the how-to. There is an actual copy of the worksheet that you can download. And then the third item is an MP3 of a radio show we did a couple of weeks ago with a young lady who was extremely brave, and we walked her right through the whole worksheet process. It's an absolutely awesome show. So you can download that free from the website. You can also download the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It's there in several languages, English, German, Russian, Farsi, etc. So please, tap into that work and pull out the pen and the paper, and we're here to support you in that process. So, Jeanie, are there any questions, thoughts, anything happening in the chat room, or any callers? No? Okay. Well, then, let's move in. Is Dr. Tim with us today, or is David there? Oh, we just got a call. Well, welcome, Dr. Tim, but let's catch our caller before we chat.
Hello?
Oh, you're on the air. Give us your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Michael. This is Nene Ortega.
Well, hello, Nene. How are you, young lady?
Fine, thank you. And, I called earlier because I would be interested if you could briefly retouch the information about the 5 smoothest stone of spirituality.
Okay, that's a great question. That's certainly an area we can go and talk about the 5 smooth stones. Is there something going on that's come up on your radar as something important to look at?
Because I find interesting about the CD we watched about the Mayan calendar and how life now it's propelling us to regain or reactivate all those spiritual tools in order to cope and, be able to be effective in our technological world.
Right. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and do that. Do you have any other thoughts in your mind as we're speaking?
Yes, I understand now a lot better about the true perception. That is
right.
One of the smoothest stones when you really cancel your need to be right and you collapse your rational mind. That's the true perception. Then you're able to really perceive what's happening in the actuality.
Yes.
And
that's definitely one of the important keys.
Last 2 days I've been considering and contemplating that idea. It's like, oh wow! Before I didn't know what it really meant.
Right. So there's some new brain cells firing, some new experiences there to give you something different.
Yep.
Cool. Fabulous. Well, for those who aren't sure what Nene is speaking about with the 5 smooth stones, that you might remember a story in the scriptures about a fellow named David and his opponent Goliath. And, of course, it's couched, it's presented as a physical battle, but the truth is it's nothing to do with the physical battle. David and Goliath are simply symbols of the state of being, our original created nature, and the non-being mind, the mind of hostility and fear. And, of course, we all make resolutions and we all talk about how we're going to do it perfectly once we hear that you can do it differently. And then a battle begins. It's also been called the Battle of Armageddon. And that battle is one where Goliath presents as this impenetrable field, this absolutely overpowering, he's 10 feet tall, he's got spears and swords and shields, and he's got so much power, nobody can defeat him. And that's how what we refer to as the non-being mind or carbon-based memory presents itself, as though it is this impenetrable and it's going to run the show no matter what you do. And, you might think about a time when you realized, you said to yourself, I got it. Life is about love, and so from now on I'm going to live lovingly. And maybe you especially expressed that to one particular individual in your life. And then you were able to do that totally, completely, 100%, right? Until the next time they gave you the look. And what happened to your resolve to be loving, gentle, and respectful? All of a sudden, it disappeared. And instead of loving, gentle, and respectful, you went back to the same old behaviors. That's Goliath. That's the mind that's been trained through hostility and fear to believe that that's the only way you can survive. And in fact, it's all a lie because that's the only way you can destroy yourself. And when you hear about David, now, I've never been trained in battle, but if you think about that whole game of battle, if I were going to go and do battle with somebody who's 4 feet taller than I am and has all the armor and training in the world, I probably wouldn't be picking smooth stones. I'd pick the most jagged, ragged-edged rocks that could cut, do as much damage as possible if that's what I were about. But you'll notice that this little shepherd boy, David, comes in. He's not even big enough to wear armor. He has been trained in nothing but tending sheep. Now, what do you suppose someone who tends sheep does at night? I'd offer that sitting out under the stars, watching those sheep, protecting against the wolves, etc., there's plenty of really deep, blank staring time. And, there's an interesting book called, I'm not sure which book it was in. It's years since I've read it, but there's either Magical Child or Magical Child Matures by Joseph Chilton Pierce. And he recounts the research that was done where they determined what the common link was with brilliant, happy children. And the common link with brilliant, happy children was that they all had plenty of blank staring time as they were growing up. You know the thing that you and I were told, and you got rapped over the knuckles with a ruler and told, get back to work? What are you doing, staring out the window, daydreaming? Are you some kind of an idiot? And we're dressed down. Anybody remember that? Guess what? The non-being world doesn't want you tapping into your spiritual faculties. The way you tap into your spiritual faculties is through meditation, through forgiveness, through removing what never belonged and getting out of this non-being mind, this mind based in hostility or fear. So David goes on to the battlefield, and he has these 5 smooth stones, and he's able to take Goliath down. How do you take down this non-being mind that has every hostility, every defense, every fear, every rage, every grief that's ever been in your bloodline? How do you take that apart? How do you get out of that thing? Well, the answer is you engage in the process of true forgiveness. And as you engage in the process of true forgiveness, you do it through several spiritual faculties, and they are the 5 smooth stones. So the 5 smooth stones are, number 1, choice. Most people say, I want to do this. They make a choice, but then when the stress is up and the chips are down, their choice is gone. Choice is an absolutely dead issue. No such thing as choice in their lives whatsoever. If you strengthen this spiritual faculty, you've got one of the 5 smooth stones with which to take apart the non-being mind that is always going to do. We call the non-being mind the replicate mind. All it can do is replicate whatever's in it. And it will replicate whatever behaviors are there. If you are in a stressful situation, your non-being mind will do whatever your power person did to you that you hated the most in an effort to win, in an effort to come in first, and, all the things that non-being is about. And so the first one is to choose differently, to choose to function out of your being to maintain your human life. And, of course, what is a human life? A human life is the active presence of love. If you haven't had that experience, go hold a newborn child. And as you hold the newborn child, you know exactly what a human life is. It is the active presence of love. And so the resolution to maintain a human life and to function out of that human life with its power of choice. If there's a behavior in your life that you find yourself doing over and over again that you say, man, I want to be finished with that. I never want to do that again. But when the stress is up and the chips are down, you can't conceive of anything else but that. Then you're stuck in the replicate mind. And your choice means nothing. This is a posture that the man named Paul was in. And he writes this beautiful stuff about love, but when the stress is up and the chips are down, what does he say? He says, why is it the things I would do I cannot do, and the things I hate are what I do? This replicate mind is in control. It's just going to repeat the behaviors of the generations, and he's got no choice about it. Develop the faculty of choice. Develop the smooth stone of choice, and you will begin, in the middle of your muddle, when the stress is up and the chips are down, to choose something different. It's possible to do that, although it may at this point seem impossible. Believe me, with practice, with support, it is possible. There's an ancient African proverb that I love to repeat, and what it says is, if you want to go quickly, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. Yes, it takes support to do that. So that's the first smooth stone to be developed. The second one is intuition. And with intuition, you have the ability to reach directly to an experience, and as Nene said, the actuality. Most of us live in the realities in our minds, and that's why we get to do the why is this happening to me again experience, because we have no clue how to get out of that replicate mind. It just keeps playing out the same things. we go into a situation, whatever the situation is, if it's relationship, then whatever's in the replicate mind, if there's pain or trauma that you haven't faced and haven't forgiven, then sooner or later that pain and trauma is going to come up. And what your mind is going to believe is the pain and trauma is about whoever you're standing in front of, instead of recognizing that it's your experience and that it's about you. And once you recognize it's about you, you have an opportunity to choose to forgive rather than to fall into the dynamics of that replicate mind. Everything in your life starts to change when you do that. So that's one of the keys with the intuitive faculty, one of the 5 smooth stones, that rather than going to your mind and it tells you the same old saw, same old story, look, they're doing it to me again, it's all their fault, why am I the victim? And look at this enemy that's in my life and what they're doing to me. When I recognize that I'm in pain or trauma, I recognize there's something inside of me that I need to deal with. If I didn't have pain or trauma inside of me in that situation, somebody could do something that is really just, terrible, horrible, awful, evil, nasty, wicked, whatever you want to call it, can do that, and you'll stand to me and go, wow, that looks really painful, instead of getting lost in what that triggers in you. So intuition allows you to more and more go to the true event that happened rather than your mind's perception of it. There's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says that perception is a skill made up by us to take the place of what the Creator gave us in creation. And so this perceptual mind, once there's a trauma in a particular file, whether it's your money file and you run up against money issues and you go, oh, see, it's like it's always been, or it's a relationship and you've been beaten and battered, abused, and the next time that file is resonated, you are sure the person you stand in front of is your abuser and the one who beats and batters you. And until you give that up and enter into true perception, you can't create a sane or a decent life because it'll keep playing out those old dynamics. So as you choose to forgive, you remove the old dynamic, and then the 9-bit mind, the conscious awareness, becomes an open screen, and intuition can reach directly to an experience, and you get to experience what's really there. And guess what's always there? There's a being made of this stuff called love. They've got a carbon-based memory like you do and all their stuff and all their garbage, but the only garbage you'll ever experience pain from, the only source you'll ever experience any form of garbage or pain from is your own. You can't experience anybody else's. So when you're in denial, you dissociate from your pain, you disable your ability to change that root of pain, and you find yourself going through the same things over and over again. People who never learn to forgive, who never learn to use the smooth stones, get to live the title of my book, and they get to do the why is this happening to me again? We're here to put an end to the why is this happening to me again game, and to start to create our lives consciously. So when I go to intuition, I then bring the actual experience of the actual event in my world to awareness, and in so doing, I have true perception. I get to see what's actually going on rather than my mind's interpretation of it. So that's the third smooth stone, true perception. Choice, intuition, true perception. And then, when I want Goliath to be what Goliath is supposed to be. Remember a statement made in the scriptures about the servant who bound the master in his own household? Well, the household is your temple, your structure. The servants are your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. And if you are bound by them, then they run you. Every time somebody gives you the look and brings something like that up, you get to play out the why is this happening to me again game. If you practice the faculty of will, and that's actually the main one that we're working with in the intensive that we're doing right now, we're doing laws of living, that's geared towards strengthening that particular spiritual faculty. So if you strengthen that faculty, if you activate that faculty, then what happens is you take charge of your own carbon-based memory, of your own device, and you are the conscious operator of that. It does not run you anymore. You run it, and you run it through the power of choice. So that's the next of the 5 smooth stones, will. So that's 4 of them. And then the 5th of the 5 smooth stones is that of imagination. And if you break that word down, it's the ability to image in, that we can bring into the mind new things that have never been seen before. You know, we've quoted Einstein on this faculty several times where he says that we've been given this incredible gift called intuition, and that there's this servant called rote memory or rational thinking. And what Einstein says is that we have forgotten the gift and we've enshrined the servant in a place of authority. And so if you've given your rational mind the seat of power, then Einstein says you're a little wacky, because you just, in order to do that, you had to give up this incredible gift. And Einstein said that his work was 90% intuition and 10% intellect. That's how he assessed himself in how he developed the work that he did, which, you know, everybody knows is awesome. And everybody goes, oh, what a giant intellect. Well, guess what? Einstein didn't do that journey with his intellect. He did it with his imagination, an incredible gift that he says was given to us. And as you become aware and take charge of that faculty, you become totally and completely tied into the 5 smooth stones. You give up the games of Goliath. You give up the games of non-being. And life just becomes an awesome event when you do that. Are we there? Can you hear me? Jeanie tells me that I'm just here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So life becomes an awesome event when we activate and practice the use of these 5 smooth stones. Of course, our culture doesn't promote that. Our culture gives us that whole, you know, it's all about the game of intellect and who's got the biggest intellect and who's got the most knowledge. But I'll tell you what, that game is not the game you want to play if you want to live a true human life. Now, if you don't mind giving up your human life or the world of hostility and fear and the insanity that all ensues, you know, have at it. That's cool. But not a necessity. So there are the 5 smooth stones. Does that fit for your question, Nene?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Now I hear it with different brain cells, and I can, you know, really understand at a higher level the process, and I think it's beautiful. Yes, very inspiring.
Cool. Glad to be on the team.
Thanks.
Glad to share with you, and delighted that you're doing such awesome work in your work.
Thank you, yes.
So any other thoughts, Nene?
I lost you for a moment. I beg your pardon?
I say any other thoughts at this moment?
No, fine. That was really what I needed to refresh those concepts in that same dynamic. And great, thank you. It's really wonderful.
Cool. All right, well,
thank you so much.
And what you might want to do when we finish the show, Jeanie posts it pretty much right away. You might want to download that MP3 so you've got it to listen to anytime you need to.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm driving right now, but I'll do that when I get home. Absolutely. Yeah, there's some chapters that I know I can go back and recheck. Wonderful.
Fabulous. All right, thanks for your call, Nene. You have a blessed day.
Michael, we have another caller.
Bye.
We have another caller.
Area code 702. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, who do we have, and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Pahrump.
Oh, hi.
Pahrump, Nevada.
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome, Pahrump. We're glad to be with you.
Yeah, I just saw Dr. Andraki 3 weeks ago, and he introduced me to your book, and I got to say I love it. I really do. I'm understanding it, and every time I listen to your show and I do a worksheet, or I understand it even more and more. It's amazing. I love it.
It is a process of building the brain cells and developing that awareness. As Nene said, Nene was just here at Heartland 2 weeks ago and did a 16-day teacher's training. And, each time you hear it, it builds on a whole different level, and a whole new possibility shows up in this awareness. So delighted to be supporting you.
Yeah, it's only been 3 weeks, and the changes that I'm already starting to go through it's incredible. I mean, I just want to say thank you for all your ambitious work. And I was actually curious. I saw on your website it mentions a 1-year super intensive. I'm actually interested in that.
Right. Well, what we do is we've got anywhere from a 1-year to a 2-year program now. And what happens is people will come and live at Heartland. They'll do work projects during the day, and then there's ongoing support, ongoing classes that they're part of. We house and feed the participants. And then the first year through the process, they are support for the intensive. And then the next year, they are full-time participants in whatever intensives we do in that summer. So there's ongoing teaching and ongoing support for getting to the next level. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, we'd be delighted to chat with you more about what that might look like for you and might look like for us.
Okay. Well, obviously it's something I can't just jump into right now.
Sure.
Because my major concern is my finances. Like, if I did do a 1-year super intensive, how would I obviously make money?
Right. Well, people who when you're here, all of your, immediate expenses, food, accommodations, workshops, electricity, everything, that's all taken care of. That's part of the process. And so the only thing you'd have to handle would be your own bills. And so people who are going to do that program usually, prepare themselves, put themselves up so that they don't have a lot of debt, or they get themselves out of it. Then that's when they'll come and do that program and deepen their experience of the tool. And we've got, a 67-acre property with 15 buildings. Basically, what we did in that time period is, the person who's on the support team doing the super intensive is support for whatever takes place. The work projects might include anything from grounds work to food to office to building, painting. We've got lots of projects going on. Anything you can imagine needing to be done on a 67-acre property in the Ozarks, that's what would be included in the work programs. But you pretty much have to set yourself up so that you wouldn't, have any debt to take care of, and you can pay full attention to your work. It's not a program that is set for people to have a job as well. It's a full-time program.
Okay, I got that.
So what do you do? What do you do in the world?
Pardon?
I said, what do you do in the world?
I'm a cook.
Ah, cool. Well, we've one of the things we do during our intensives, and of course during the year, is we have food preparation. So that would certainly be a nice set of skills to have to bring. Although when we do our intensives, we do a total fresh and raw program. There's no cooking involved.
Really?
It's all fresh and raw. We have these awesome recipes. Actually, Jeanie is the chef this year, and she's just cranking out this awesome fresh and raw food that's just fabulous. And so that's what we do during the intensive programs. The rest of the year we do a fair bit of raw, but we also do some cooked food as well. So depends, from year to year, depends on the group. Sometimes there are people here who really want to do the raw food, so they do more rather than less. It's sort of an individual kind of thing.
It does sound intriguing, but do you guys eat meat at all?
No, we do a total vegetarian program. If somebody's here doing the program and they want to go into town, and if they feel a need for meat, they do that. But we don't serve any meat. We don't involve ourselves in tortured flesh, which is what most of the culture eats, and we don't kill sentient beings in order to eat. So it's a little different than the way the world looks at things. And as you detoxify yourself, you'll find that a vegetarian diet provides all of the nutrients and then some that the structure needs. The sales pitch, there's a business in this world that spends about $50 billion a year. That's the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry spend about $50 billion a year between them trying to tell people what to put in their mouths. And there's some detoxification to be done to get out of those stimulant-type foods and into real food that really nourishes and enlivens and empowers the healing process.
Well, what about things like eggs and cheese, milk products, stuff like that?
If somebody feels like they really need protein, there are people around that have fresh eggs, and we do buy eggs for people who want to eat those. We don't buy, if we can help it, we don't buy grocery store eggs because, again, those chickens are so abused. When you think of everything as energy, and, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the videos on what happens to animals that are served in your standard restaurant, but the torture that they go through. And if you imagine that, the chemistry that's going into that flesh and then you put it in your body, it doesn't take a big leap to go, wow, what toxicity is going in there. So we do buy local eggs, but we don't do cheese and dairy.
Oh,
part of the program. So again, if somebody wants to go to town, go ahead.
It's always been my understanding that us as humans, we're omnivores. We eat both meat and vegetables. So I've always been actually curious about that. How does a vegetarian survive without eating meat?
Well, if you take a look at the animals, that's always been a big discussion on the planet between the vegetarians and the omnivores or meat eaters. And if you take a look at through the animal kingdom, the creatures that are not impacted by Madison Avenue's advertising, what you'll find is your body structure, your tooth structure, your intestinal structure, the levels of hydrochloric acid in your body and such, match the vegetarian animals perfectly. They are not like any meat eater on the planet. Look at the structure. And to me, that kind of solves that dilemma. I came from a background, I used to be in the restaurant business. I had 1,600 seats in 3 locations. We specialized in prime rib, lobster, and steak in my restaurants, and I thought that was actually food. And, I ate that 3 times a day because, I was brought up in a family where, if my mom didn't prepare meat at every meal, she was deficient in her duties. And then when I started to study naturopathic medicine, I was appalled when I started to understand what this structure is made for and how it's designed. And if you just look at its design, it will tell you whether it's designed for dead animals or not. And, right from the first step is, a human being that enjoys, like the carnivores do, running down game and tearing out its throat with its teeth. Well, we couldn't do that. Why couldn't we do that? Because we're not designed to do that. That's not what we humans are designed for. So there's a big discussion that we could have there. But, in the last analysis, what you find, and when I first started to understand how the body was designed, I started to transition into a vegetarian diet, and it took me about 14 years, and that was probably 25 years ago now. I haven't had a piece of flesh in my mouth in 25 years, and you couldn't convince me to eat a piece of dead animal now because it's just not sane, at least from the point of view of the design of this form. But we don't, inhibit people. If people come and do that program and they want to go into town occasionally and, do their steak or what have you, but we do eggs for people who feel like they need a higher protein level. And people who have oversaturated their bodies with proteins, if you go into any hospital in the United States today, go and ask, how many people do you have in here that are suffering from a protein deficiency? You know how many you're going to find in all the hospitals in the United States? You're not going to find one person suffering from a protein deficiency. So the business that Madison Avenue pays to brainwash us into eating flesh and cheese and dairy and eggs. Those businesses are the big money businesses, and they spend billions to brainwash us into thinking that we need those foods. Now, if you go into a hospital and you get down to the truth of it and you ask them how many people are in here dying from over-protein, you'll find that the majority of people, cancer, emphysema, heart problems, arterial sclerosis, they're all based in protein, overeating. And so when we detox, and you know, the cooked food itself and animal flesh is a stimulant, and at the same time tends to depress awareness. And so when you start to eat a fresh and raw dietary regimen, you know, one of the things I might suggest, we just scheduled a 9-day intuitive development in September the 16th through the 24th. We're going to do a 9-day workshop. We'll do that fresh and raw food as part of the dietary regimen. And it's just 9 days. What you might want to do is think about coming and doing that intensive. That would give you a taste of Heartland. You get to see, you know, more of what goes on. It would give you the opportunity to experience the effects of that dietary regimen on your structure. And I think you find it's pretty awesome. And then, you know, if you decide at some point you want to come and do the longer program, then, you know, you could be preparing yourself for it. It's not something we necessarily suggest somebody jump into in an instant, for sure.
Yeah,
so you might want to think about that intensive.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, as a cook, I've you know, ran into people who are vegetarians, vegans, and I've always been curious as to their diets and all that, and I've always wanted to learn all that. So I'm just naturally curious, obviously.
Well, that's part of what we teach. And my children, between them now, they've got 61 years on the planet, and neither of them have ever had a piece of flesh in their bodies. My son is now 31, and when he was 15, he was a real cheesehead. We did eat cheese back then. And I actually read him an article. He was at school. He was homeschooled till he was 13, then he was given the option to go to school. And he was at school, and I read him this article from a magazine or a book called Baker's USA, a newspaper. And it was on mad cow disease. And, you know, back then, mad cow was well known. It was well established in the United States. Of course, the meat industry has done the best they can to keep that hidden. But when I read that article to him, he overnight became vegan, and he hasn't touched a piece of flesh since 16 years. And he's the hiking kind of guy that can go out and he can climb and walk and run for miles. When he was a kid, we're here in the Ozarks, and, you know, there's some pretty good hills, and we're up from the lake. We've got what used to be a resort on the lake, and it's about a quarter-mile run down to the lake. And Michael J. would get out of the lake barefoot and run full blast all the way up to the house with no ill effects whatsoever, and certainly was never in a place where he was deficient in protein.
Huh.
If you think about it, a 2,000-pound or a 200-pound steer or cow grows from 200 pounds to 2,000 pounds in a year on what? A mono diet of grass. Obviously, there's lots of protein there. So
yeah.
It's definitely a different way of thinking than the culture thinks, because the culture thinks Madison Avenue. You know, it's big business. It's mega bucks when you look at the meat dairy industry. It's just incredible. And, you know, the way that the political system's grown up around it, the support that's given to those industries so that they can continue. You know, to put 1 pound of hamburger on a plate takes 500 gallons of water. If the ranchers and the farmers had to pay for 500 gallons per pound to get it to the plate, guess how much hamburger would be? It would be $10 a pound. But the taxpayer pays for that. That's all part of that, you know, money that's sent to Washington to keep hidden from us what it really costs to maintain the meat eaters. And the amount of land that it takes, I forget exactly the ratio, but if I remember correctly, it's something like 50 to 1. The amount of land it takes to feed one person off of cow food, off of decaying cow flesh, compared to the amount of land it takes to grow vegetarian vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, grains is about, if I remember now, I may be incorrect and this is just memory, but I think it's about 50 to 1. You can feed 50 people off of what it takes to do one with meat. And, of course, we have, I think something like 16,000 people, primarily children, dying in the world every day of starvation, while we in America consume enough meat products that we could be feeding the world hands down in a breeze with no effort whatsoever if we shifted over to that vegetarian diet.
Yeah, it's definitely an ugly side of society.
If you want to see an interesting video, there's one called, Jeanie, what's the name of that farm movie? Do you recall offhand? Paradise Farm. Google a video called Paradise Farm. I don't know whether you can watch it online or not, but it's worth ordering and looking at what happens to animal flesh when it's being prepared or being set up.
Yeah, I went to culinary school and I saw a video on the preparation of cow. And yeah, that was a pretty nasty thing, but I still eat meat. I don't eat red meat. I only eat chicken and fish when I can afford it.
Right.
That was called Paradise Farm.
Paradise Farm.
Yeah, okay, I'm just typing it in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just suggest that you might want to look at, we're going to do a 9-day intuitive development. In that workshop, we'll get into, on a deep level, the forgiveness process of why is this happening to me again. Workshop will be part of that intensive. So there'll be a deep tapping into that forgiveness worksheet, the reality management. And then we'll do some MindShifters, which is another tool we teach, and still point breathing, working with breath. You'll notice that there's a strong focus in the reality management worksheet process on breathing, because when we hold our breath, that's how we lock things out of awareness and create this unnatural, unconscious mind that tends to drive us. So we'll do MindShifters and still point breathing, and then the rest of the intensive is designed, if you listen to the question they may have, we talked about intuition. So the focus of that intensive is an experiential getting feedback on when your intuitive faculty is operating properly. And as you tap into that intuitive faculty, really functioning out of intuition rather than functioning out of intellect, which is what I said was 90% of his work.
You said this was in September?
Yeah, actually it'll start on Friday, September the 16th. It'll be here at Heartland, the Theodosia. People who come usually fly into Springfield, Missouri, and then there's a shuttle service that'll bring you down to Heartland and take you back to the airport. So it's Springfield, Missouri that people fly into, and it'll start on Friday, so people can travel on Friday and then go through the next week. So they only have to take, if they're working, take 1 week off work, and then the next that Saturday the workshop is complete. So it's from Friday to the following Saturday, and then travel back home and be back for work the next week. So it really means taking a week plus a day off of work. And it's a really awesomely powerful workshop.
I'll definitely start planning for it. If it doesn't work out, then I'll just try to jump onto something else. But I'll definitely look into it.
Well, that'll be the last intensive we'll do this year. And one of the things, oftentimes, of course, is the money issue. So if we can work with you to break it down in some way that makes it doable, if that becomes a block, we're happy to work.
Okay, yeah. I'll continue working with Dr. Andraki out here, and I'll definitely keep in touch with you about the super intensive.
Awesome. And you might want to drop us an email. My email address is mjr@WHY.
Michael, you're echoing out. You're kind of hard to understand.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
It's MJR. No.
Repeat that.
MJ, M like Michael, J like James, R for Ryce, MJR at WHYAGAIN.com.
Okay. .com. All right. Got your email address now.
Awesome. Yeah, we were out in Pahrump. We had a really awesome time working with Dr. Andraki and Claudia. And they have the 2 support groups going on, I think each one going once a week, like on Tuesdays or Thursdays. And,
the first and third Thursday of every month.
Right, and then they do one in Las Vegas on opposite weeks, I think. So they're doing a phenomenal job out there.
Yeah, the first time when I went in there, I thought I had a mental disorder or something, and I'm absolutely relieved to have finally found this. Huh.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're glad you did too.
All right.
Thank you for calling.
What's your first name?
What's your first name?
Oh, my first name is Gavin.
Gavin?
Okay, Gavin, we'll look forward to hearing from you and getting to connect.
All right, thank you.
Okay, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's pretty cool to hear what Dr. Andraki and Claudia are doing in the world. Awesome. Any other callers or anything happening in the chat room, sweetie?
Some things that are going on in the chat room is there was some conversation going back and forth about the eating meat or not, and I posted the link out there for the intuitive development flyer so everybody could pick that up. And then there's a person out there, actually they're Margaritaville, and I asked them if they were our Margarita in Key West, and they're not, but they have some connections with some Aramaic-speaking people, some family members and elders, and so I told them to email me directly. They said that they thought that they might be interested in helping with some of the translation stuff. So
that would be awesome. We would love that support. We're working on putting a team together to do that translation work to get things to the next level with the manuscript. So that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Make
sure we get some contact information from those folks, Jeanie.
Yeah. It says that the movie The Passion of Christ, Mel Gibson's autobiography, according to him, was mostly Aramaic with some butchered pronunciations, but and also some Hebrew, but family members could pretty much understand everything without reading the subtitles. So that's really neat.
Right. Yeah. That movie did a lot for the American, as did the Celestine prophecy that exposed a lot of people to Aramaic. I've been involved with this Aramaic manuscript for about the last 25 years, and since I got involved with it, whenever I went to a city, which I would get to visit a lot of them, I would look for Bible stores, and I go into the Bible stores and ask. And until after Mel Gibson's movie, I had never been in one Bible store anywhere in the country that knew that Yeshua spoke Aramaic and that the original ideas were Aramaic. Everybody believes it's Greek. And, if Yeshua walked into most churches today, he'd say that's all Greek to me. It's a Greek thought that's been put in place of the Aramaic. Let's just take the one example of the main thing we're working on. The Greek idea of forgiveness is, I have all this pain inside of me that's all your fault. I am your victim, but it's okay. I'll be big about it. I'll forgive you. So if I forgive you because I have all this pain inside of me, have I done anything at all to change the pain that's inside of me? No, I just reinforced the pain that's inside of me. Guaranteed a why is this happening to me again experience. Absolutely guaranteed if you do that. And the Aramaic idea of forgiveness, as Yeshua taught it, you remember he said, you must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. Now, that's been kind of made to sound like a bleeding heart statement. Look what you did to me, and I'll forgive you from my heart. But that word heart, up until just the last few years in the West, we could not translate that word. We've labored in the West for almost 2,000 years, not being able to translate the word heart out of the Aramaic, what the Greeks translated as the heart. What we now know is, what he was saying was, you must remove from your dissociated mind, your unconscious, that which you are projecting into your brain's image of your brother. Now let's just take that one idea and look at the difference between living in a world of forgiving everybody else for what's going on inside of you, and therefore holding and clutching tightly to what's going on inside of you and passing it on to your generations, and reaching inside yourself and removing what never belonged. What kind of a change is that going to make in your world? As this young man just said, he started 3 weeks ago. And his life has turned around so awesomely. And that's what happens. If you want a really clear sample of the forgiveness work, go to www.whyagain.com, our website, and on the right-hand side, click Download Worksheets, and the third link down is an MP3 of a show from back, almost 2 weeks ago. And this very awesome, brave, courageous, willing young lady called in. She shared with the group, which is pretty courageous on the air, that she had a problem with alcohol, and she went through. She brought up an issue, and we walked her right through a worksheet, and it's one of the most awesome worksheets I've ever seen anybody do. You look at the difference, listen to that, and then imagine the difference. She actually, in this particular session, started out with a current event that was happening in her life that she thought had to do with something that was happening with her father's estate and her anger at the person who was handling the estate. And then what she got in touch with partway through that was, oh, my God, this isn't about that. 20 years ago, because I healed a child of cancer using nutrition, the oncologist that was working with this child losing business came after me, and he forced my medical license to be taken away. And her rage, she actually shared that she wanted to shoot this guy. She could imagine herself shooting him. And then as she's going through that, she gets in touch with how this relates to her childhood and her relationship with her dad. Now, listen to that MP3, please, and then imagine the difference between watching what she does with that and how she goes back in that forgiveness process and reclaims her human life from all of that insanity. And then imagine if she had just found some counselor who said, well, just forgive the person who's destroying your father's estate. Just forgive the man who who took your license away from you. Just forgive your father for what he's done. And you see, just on that one simple little point, and there's so much in the Aramaic that's missing and lost. That one simple little point, the difference between I'm going to let them off the hook and I'm going to change what's happening inside of me, is monumental. And it's time for us on planet Earth to start to recognize what true forgiveness is and to get to reclaim our actual human lives. And what is your human life? You are. And I don't care where you're at in your world. I don't care how much drama and trauma is. I don't care how much you blame your spouse or your parents or your children or those hateful people across the street. I don't care what insanity has happened in your world. That insanity has never touched you. You are as pristine as that newborn child, and you are the same awesome, active presence of love as that newborn child. I don't care what's going on in your marriage at home. I don't care what's going on in your job. It doesn't matter if you're in the depths of a prison cell in isolation and been tortured by your captors in that prison. Your essential nature, which is the awesome, active human life called love, is still intact. Forgiveness and the work of the man named Yeshua is about reclaiming that.
Michael, we have a caller.
Awesome. Let's hear from him.
Okay, area code 602, you're on the air.
Hello.
Who do we have?
John.
John?
Hi, John.
Where are you calling from, John?
Phoenix.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I got a question, and I'd like to see how it fits into the forgiveness process, because I know I need to do a worksheet, but I wanted your input because I don't normally see it in this respect. The last several years, every relationship I'm in, I get like, you're the man of my dreams. You're the kindest man I've ever known. I've made a lifetime out of not being the self-centered jerk and understanding.
Excuse me, can you say that again? I missed that.
I said I've made a lifetime out of not being a self-centered jerk and appreciating the needs of others, etc. But
right.
So it ends up, you're the man of my dreams, and no, I just don't feel any. I just lost the feeling. It's just like there's nothing there. They say. So that's pretty screwed up for me,
Thank you.
And so, let me see if I'm understanding correctly, John. What you're saying is you get into relationships and it's wondrous, and then all of a sudden the dream kind of turns into a nightmare?
Yeah, they just say, I must be out of my mind. This has got to be the stupidest thing I ever did, but they want to end the relationship. It just keeps happening like that.
Yep. Well, John, the bottom line of the whole process is you're a creator, and from what you've told me, what you hold in your relationship file, so to speak, as energetic beings, we store information in files, so to speak, and so the information in your file on relationship says something to the effect of, I don't deserve relationship, or the women I attract leave me, or, some variation on the theme of that. And as long as you hold that in your unconscious, what in the scriptures was called the heart, and it's a painful kind of thing, whatever the experience was that put it there in the first place, it's a painful thing to face and deal with. So if that stays in the dissociated state in your mind, here's what happens. I don't know if you've listened to one of the earlier shows or in my Why Is This Happening to Me Again DVD. You might want to go on the website and order it. In the Why Is This Happening to Me Again DVD, we talked about the work I did about 30 years ago with a fellow named Marcel Vogel. Marcel was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM, and he had the instrumentation in his laboratory with which to take a picture of the high-energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. Literally, when we put a frequency into our system, we set up an energetic wave. And because we are energetic beings and live in a world of energy, the result of that is that I'm continuously sending out this high-energy wave that says something to the effect of, I want a relationship and I need somebody who will be around thinking and telling me how awesome I am, but then before long is going to leave me. And so with that resonating field, you attract someone with the perfect matching bag of garbage, and the matching bag of garbage, when it comes up in them, prompts them to leave. Now, the transformation, there's another workshop we do called Healing Through Relationships. That's also a DVD or a CD that's available on the website. And in the Healing Through Relationships, what we point out is that when we come into each other's field as resonant beings with our matching bags of garbage, that matching garbage creates an attraction. And it's perfect because what will happen is that each of us will get the opportunity to forgive, that is, remove our garbage that's in that relationship file so that we can actually create a clean relationship instead of creating out of our unconscious or the heart. You remember in the ancient teachings where this is physics and physiology, they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. You must forgive from your heart. They were saying you've got to take care of what's in your own unconscious. As long as you stay dissociated from this painful experience, whatever it was, you will tend to keep resonating relationships that will give you an opportunity one more time to forgive. If, however, when it comes up, you live in the classic state of denial, it's all their fault, then the tendency will be to deny that in yourself and look, they're doing it to me again. And, of course, the person with the matching bag of garbage says, look, they're doing it to me. And if we each pick up the tool of forgiveness and create support for each other, what will happen is we'll get to clean out those bags of garbage. And, John, we're almost to the end of the show. I would love to have more discussion with you if you have the space. How about calling back in tomorrow and see if that answer that I've given you makes sense? And let's see if we can help you get to the next level in cleaning this one up. Otherwise, we're just about to the end of the show. I think we've probably got about 20 seconds left. And so Chicago next week, starting Sunday in Cary, Illinois, just outside of Chicago suburb. Dr. Tim, thanks for setting that up. And my apologies we didn't get to you on the show. It's just been a busy day. And then the intensive in September, come play at Heartland. Bless you. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. Take care. Bye-bye.
And the other callers that were on hold on the switchboard, please call back tomorrow. We didn't have time to get to you, but we'd love to hear from you. Call back tomorrow. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.